Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Tyler Mitchell with Copy Products, and I'm joined here today by Kyle Gillette from M-Files. Kyle really knows his way around the Hubshare platform. Hubshare is a platform that M-Files purchased earlier this year, and it's been a great tool for both collaborating with outside members of your organization. So you're thinking about partners, clients, customers, and it's a really effective way for them to submit documents. Those documents then get automatically entered into M files and they will find their way into your workflows. So it's really great for bolstering this remote environment that is becoming more and more common today, but also just for making life a little bit easier and streamlining some of those interactions, not just within your internal M files users, but with anyone external from your organization. So without further ado, I'm going to pass things over to Kyle. He's prepared a presentation on how Hubshare works. And Kyle, I'll let you take it away from here.
Awesome, thanks Tyler. Just to make sure, are you seeing the Acme Inc. login page here?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay, awesome. So again, thank you Tyler. Thank you everyone for joining. My name's Kyle Gillette. I'm actually a sales engineer here at M-Files, and I'm actually the subject matter expert for Hubshare here in North America. Um, like Tyler said, Hubshare is a product that M-Files acquired earlier this year. And it filled a really big hole for us from our M-Files stack in that, if you're an M-Files customer currently, you'll know that we had some ways to be able to share content to users, external users, such as your clients or maybe your contractors, project members, whatever that might be, via public links or maybe giving them some type of temporary access to your vaults. And it could be a little cumbersome. So Hubshare fills the void of having an external collaboration portal to be able to not only just share content from M files, which I'll go through, but also kind of be almost like an extranet or like I said, an actual collaboration portal with your external or maybe even internal parties between the departments within the organization. So I'm not going to bore anybody with a PowerPoint. I'm just going to jump right into the product. I believe towards the end we'll have a little bit of a question and answer setup. And then obviously if there's any other questions after the fact, we can address them accordingly. So Hubshare, just to get some terminology out of the way, as part of the name, we have terminology called hubs. From kind of your level as a customer, we have what we call company hubs. And the overarching company hub is more or less your top level hub, and then underneath that, you would create hubs to be utilized for different purposes. An example actually might be that I'm going to use is I have a client-based hub. So as M-Files or Motive LLC is a fake company that I utilize in a lot of my demos, I have multiple client hubs that I give my external clients access to that shows relevant content to them as the client. I'm going to log into this hub for Acme Inc. here. And you can see it's not the prettiest, but you can brand and customize the login page. You can even customize this specific to the client themselves. You can see I have the Acme Inc. logo on here, pulled off of Google. But I'm going to go ahead and log in. Authentication happens using the user's email address, and then they create a password. When you create a user in Hubshare, whether that's an internal user or an external user, they are initially sent an email to activate their account, which is just a simple form to say, here's your account for our Hubshare portal. You need to create a password, and they would create a password for that. And then what would happen is when you add users or invite users to the hub itself, they would get an email link with an invitation to the hub directly, and they can save the link to log into the hub. You could embed their client link into your website, or if you're using some type of customer experience portal, you can embed their portal into there. This URL at the top is very not very descriptive, but this can be modified as needed to maybe make it easier for users to remember the URL to get back to the hub. When a user logs in to their hub, you can see I'm kind of taken to a dashboard. Again, on some terminology, Hubshare has what we call modules, and they also have widgets. So widgets are these white boxes that you'll see on the screen that are added to what we call our dashboard module. And the dashboard module, think of it as more of portal pages or site pages or a web page where widgets are added to, configured. I can move widgets around as I need to, just depending on how I want the page to look. Very what you see is what you get kind of configuration here. And if I get too out of control, sometimes it wants to snap on me, but that's okay. So we move some things around here. And then the dashboard pages, I can actually have multiple pages. So you can see here I have this initial dashboard that I logged into. If I hit the arrow at the top, it actually takes me to a new page for collaboration. They can also show up as what we call module buttons on the left-hand side as well. Now, the widgets themselves, they do a number of different things. So for example, I'll just show this. There's a number of different widgets that do a lot of different stuff. There's flat widgets that you can just put like flat content on, such as my custom content widget here. I just have some flat text. This can actually be utilized to get a little bit more advanced, and you can configure this in more of like an HTML or JavaScript configuration to do a lot more custom pieces. I can actually embed a website here. I can embed a Twitter feed, a YouTube channel, maybe an event board or another forum into this page. So you kind of give them one UI to gain access to a lot of those communication features. I have widgets that I can place specific links. You'll see these are actually some M files widgets where I can expose some content from M files. And then a lot of the widgets are actually utilized to expose content from other modules within Hubshare. So I've talked about the dashboard module. If we kind of just go down the line here on the left-hand side, the rest of these buttons here are different modules that Hubshare offers. So there's a social module, which think about this as kind of like your basic communication board where internal users can post feeds on here, maybe notifying all of the external parties that there's an event coming up or that there's a new product and you want to get some feedback on it, whatever that might be. And users can also comment on these feeds. You can see I have some comments here. And I can also send a chat directly to a user as well. So it can kind of be utilized as an internal chat feature. And apologize, bear with me here. I'm going to kill my Teams in the background because I don't want that pop-up to show up for you. A little gray box. And then, like I mentioned, the widget on the dashboard side can show the relevant social feeds pertaining to your user that's logged in. So my actual user here that's logged in sees the feeds that either I've commented on, I've been assigned to, or chats with me here. Hubshare does have an internal file repository module called the Files module. It's very basic. It's folder driven, so users can create folders. They can add documents to these folders. We can set specific permissions on these folders as we need to, either at a grouping level or on a per user basis. The files module does have some advanced features around version control. There's a check-in, check-out capability that can be utilized here, but essentially the files module is the repository on the specific hub itself. So this is tied only to Acme Inc.'s hub, where documents can be uploaded and stored here in more of a folder structure format as well. The users can select a document to view it in the viewer directly inside of the interface. If we give them rights to do so, they can download and print these documents. If they want to edit, let's say, a Word document, they can choose to open the document either on their desktop, which would require a local application to be installed so that the link between the cloud repository and local can be made, or they can open it up in an Office 365 session, edit the document is saved directly into the files module here as well. We can share documents by copying the path. Essentially, that creates a link directly to the document. And again, they can place comments, download, and depending on their rights, edit the documents themselves here. Furthermore, on my dashboard page, I don't have a files widget configured, but I can have a files widget on my dashboard that maybe shows all the documents inside of folder A. So when I go to my dashboard, one of my dashboard pages, it takes me directly to that folder there. So you can kind of create more of a dashboard of the content that lives inside of that files module. Moving on, there's a project management module within Hubshare. I kind of look at it as more of a project management light, in that there's not a ton of like analytics or workflow or anything like that built into the project module. But from a very simple standpoint, someone can create a project. We can have descriptions around this project. They can then create tasks that are assigned to specific users. You can see I have this assigned to myself. I can set a duration. I can attach documents to this task that need to happen. I can have chats on the task. I can even create subtasks from here as well, or checklists, if you will. And as users are given these tasks, they will see at the top here for their assignment list of what they need to do. Whether you can see I actually have multiple hubs that have tasks for me to complete on there. Going back, we're able to take this and put this into more of a timeline view, kind of more of a Gantt chart type look here as well. And I can look at what all of my tasks are very quickly. Kind of going into the next piece on the calendar, the project module and the task can tie into the calendar module on the hub. Now, the calendar module is linked directly to this hub. I can create calendar events on here accordingly, things to notify my clients or users of the hub that a demo's coming up, an event's coming up, or from the project piece that I have a task that's due. And I can see that here within the calendar module. And I even have a widget that I can put on the dashboard page so they can see right away what tasks they have available to themselves there. The last module I have here is people. It's a very simple module. It's essentially a contact card or a contact app. So you can see I have myself here as a contact. I can create groups and add people here as contacts. There's a people widget that could be added to the dashboard. So maybe it's a project hub. Your hub's created for a specific project, and you wanted to have right there in the dashboard a list of all of the contacts for maybe the project managers or the project owners, for users who access the hub to get information and contact information for them very quickly there. Users are added to the hub through the users configuration section. Here, I can create external users, or I can add users that are internal to my company hub to invite them to the hub itself. Again, when I add users to the hub, they would get an email notification with a link to the hub to saying that they've been invited to that hub itself as well. Um, only internal users can be admins on a hub. They don't necessarily have to be admins, but admins have rights to edit the pages like you saw as I was moving things around. I can also choose to edit the widgets themselves as well. So that's kind of a 10,000 foot view of Hubshare on its own. The second piece to it, and again, kind of the main reason why mFiles acquired Hubshare, is that we have an integration with mFiles. So if you're not an mFiles customer today, mFiles is a document management, a metadata-driven document management system that allows your organization to store documents inside of that repository based off of metadata tags as opposed to a folder structure. And again, the reason why for this acquisition that we brought Hubshare on was that in order to gain access to those documents or objects inside of mFiles, you had to have an mFiles license, you had to have a user access directly to the vault itself. You would have to configure permissions accordingly. And so from an external collaboration use case, it just didn't make sense to have to get a full-blown license of mFiles. You now have, again, you have to manage those permissions on those external users, remove access, and it could get really cumbersome. So from the Hubshare standpoint, I'm actually going to go to another page here. We're able to have widgets that link directly into the mFiles repository. From a technical standpoint, it utilizes a service account to do that today. But what it allows us to do is to configure widgets to do searches into mFiles to surface documents, or if you're familiar with mFiles, we can actually surface mFiles objects, which I'll go over in a little bit as well. But from a basic standpoint, this widget allows me to do a search into mFiles. You can see I'm shown specific documents that on the mFile side, which I'll switch over to, are tagged to be able to meet that search criteria, so the correct documents show up for this user. They can choose to view the document just like in the files module. They can choose to download and print it if we give them rights to do so. And they can even be given rights to see and edit metadata on the mFile side, even as an external user here. So a great example of an external user needing rights to edit metadata would be workflow. So I don't have something to show here, but from a visual standpoint, but imagine, if you will, maybe a drop-down menu or another tag to progress a document through a workflow state. An example might be approving a contract or approving a drawing on for a specific project. So on the mFile side, it's gone through its internal approval process, but now it needs external review. So now the document is tagged to be able to show up in the search results of maybe a widget that says documents available for review. A user could get a notification to come to the portal, view the document, and then maybe tick a box or change a field to say that it's approved or rejected from an external standpoint. That is updated in real time on the mFiles side. It is, again, the version history that mFiles brings is maintained. That's considered a new version of that document with that updated audit trail as well. Looking at it from the mFiles side, just real quick, I know if you're not an mFiles customer, this interface might be pretty new to you. But where I'm at right now is I'm inside of a view where I'm looking at all documents for Acme Inc. And you can see they, again, very simplified here, but they've been tagged for this hub specifically. I can actually tag this document to other hubs that I have access to on the M file side. But if you think about it, the hub is just another object in M files that I can tag a document to. And that's what my query is doing in that example. So this a new document here, if I removed the hub, saved it, you can see it removes it from the view here. If I hit refresh, that a new document is removed from my list here. The query does not have to be exactly this shared hub object. It can be something even more simplified. So if I look for, I actually have another document, this general brochure here, which is actually tagged to say publish to all hubs. So it's not tagged to a specific hub, but what it's able to do, if I look at my main dashboard page, you can see I have a widget called useful documents here, and that general brochure shows up. So if it's something where it's like a policy document that you need all of your clients to see across all of your client hubs, we can just set up the tags accordingly to show those documents. And to get a little technical, I'll actually go into the configuration of that widget, and you can actually see we're just doing a search that says show me all documents where published to all hubs is checkmarked or set to yes from there. Very simple. Uh, Furthermore, so we've talked about documents, but we can actually show objects in M files as well. So you can actually see, if I go back to M files, and I'll just do a quick search here for all my requests for information objects. I have a number of requests for information objects. Think about this as like just like a data form, a data object with a set of data that this data object goes through an actual workflow for me to accommodate this request. But I can surface this actual object inside of Hubshare, and I can actually get to the relationship tree as well if I have rights to do so. So this demo Hubshare object actually has a document attached to it. So I can see that document, I can view that document here. If I had rights to download it, I can do so. The last kind of piece as far as the M files widget goes, so we've done viewing content, but we can actually utilize Hubshare to upload content to M files. So prior to Hubshare, we'd either have to monitor an email address, have some type of FTP site that we monitor, or do some type of custom integration with another platform to pull documents into M files externally. Well, now we can just have what we call a creator widget that, if you're familiar with M files, this is similar to hitting the plus sign create and creating a document here, choosing a document class and filling out a set of metadata. Now on the Hubshare side, we don't have to expose all of the metadata. You might have a class that has 20 different fields internally, but from an external standpoint, I want at least the name of the document and maybe a description. So we'll do a document called demo. We'll do a document called Hubshare demo. And I'm just going to upload a file. Again, from an external user standpoint, I could do a drag and drop here. I can browse out. We'll go to, we'll just pick one of these images here. That's fine with me, or it can actually be a document, which I should have here on my desktop. I'll do one of these. I hit create. That document is uploaded directly to the M files vault. And actually, because the way we're tagging it automatically, it's actually going to show up in my view here, because if we look at it on the M file side, I only got the name of the document that I wanted to name it from the user. But I also, if I go into that view by hub, we'll go into the Acme Inc. hub. I also automatically tagged it with the hub. I added a keyword, and you can see it actually auto updated to tag it to the account object according to this hub for me. So we can still capture additional metadata even though we're not asking for it all up front on the Hubshare side. So I think we're coming up on a 5-minute warning. I'll take a pause there. Any questions, Tyler? I'm not sure if you were having them put questions in the chat or if you were monitoring that, or how you want to handle that.
Yeah, I have a few questions to throw out here.
Mhm.
Um, what are some common verticals that you see that really benefit from using Hubshare?
Yeah, so I'll take a step back real quick from the vertical standpoint in that kind of similar to M files, we see a lot of anything project-based, client, customer oriented, um, product, equipment, um, anything where there's like a location really fits well here because if you think about the hub can tie into that. It ties, you can have a hub per your project. You can have a hub per client. Um, Hubshare originally was created mainly to fit in the legal space, the legal vertical. So a lot of when Hubshare came over, we have actually a lot of existing law firms that utilize Hubshare, um, even without M files. And they do kind of exactly the example I showed here. They create a hub for their client. That's where all of their case documents show up inside of the files module. They invite their clients or maybe external counsel to the hub and a place to collaborate on that. We have customers in construction, pharmaceuticals, the energy sector, services, whether that's accounting, legal, whatever that might be, kind of across the board. But again, I like to emphasize kind of that, a hub is tied to some type of entity, whether it be a project or a client, as an example.
So what if a customer needs to create hundreds of hubs or hundreds of add hundreds of different users
Mhm.
um, upon the creation of their initial hub share? Is there an easy way for them to streamline that?
Yeah, so from a user standpoint, we'll do internal users. We can sync with Active Directory or Azure AD, so we can pull internal users in that way. Or both from an internal and external user standpoint, we can import via a CSV file. So if you have a database that has those external users, export it as a CSV, and we can upload them all at once. In regards to creation of the hub, so just from the hub share side, I didn't talk too much about managing this on the M file side, but we can create templates. And so actually for this hub that we've been looking at, this hub was actually created from this template. So I didn't have to create all those widgets and modify that every single time I create it, but instead when I go to create a hub, I can create it from this template here. And furthermore, on the M file side, we have the ability to create the hubs from an object. So I created this Acme Inc. object in M files. I chose to use this specific template and it can automatically create the hub for me there. So from a bulk import standpoint, we could create all the hubs either from objects and M files, or we can have that template created and then create all those hubs from that template directly from Hubshare.
Great. And I think we have time for one more quick question. This one is almost a yes or no question. Are
Mhm.
there any limits on how many hubs can be created?
No, there's no limits on hubs. The only, I guess, quote unquote, limitations are so Hubshare is licensed by internal users, so users on your domain. You can have an unlimited amount of external users, so users outside of your domain. There's no limit on hubs because hubs themselves, from an infrastructure standpoint, don't take up a lot of space. The only other limit would be content or file limit. And that is around files that are stored directly in the files module. So if I go back to my Acme Inc. hub, I have files in here. If you are utilizing M files as a repository, that does not pertain here at all. This is just content that lives inside of the files module.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, that is our half hour. Really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through Hubshare as well as a high overview of M-Files, Kyle.
Mhm.
If anybody has any questions about either Hubshare or even M-Files, feel free to reach out to your Copy Products account manager. And thanks again for tuning in.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you, Kyle.